Yeah. It is 3:02, and I call the regular meeting of the Balcones Heights Economic Development Corporation to order. We have 6 members present. A quorum is seated. We may conduct business. Let's see. Um, I see here that we have one person signed up. Um, So the speakers may address the board for up to 3 minutes. Board members may not engage with speaker on topic, but may add the topic to a future agenda for discussion. So Jimmy Hernandez, you can approach.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to introduce myself. I am becoming more active in the community, and I just wanted to say that I'm here. I want to learn more about the EDC and what we can do to improve our economic development here in Balcones Heights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
there is another gentleman that wanted to speak. I should have told him he needed to sign up, if you will allow that.
Absolutely.
My name is Angel Castorena. I'm with KOH Events. We host roughly about 60 to 75% of the events at Wonderland of the Americas. This has been since 2023. We began with about 40 events in 2023. I apologize, we began late 2022. In 23, we had about 40 events. Last year with the previous city manager, the fees were brought to artists and vendors as far as paying $25 to the city based on the 18 months prior, which quite honestly was the majority of our events. We understand the city needs those fees and we are open to work with you. Just like last year, I decided to take those fees off the vendors and artists and negotiate accepting it as the promoter responsibility. In my opinion, and to this day, I feel that is the event coordinator's job. These small businesses cannot afford these fees. This is why many of the events outside of Otaku and a very select few have less than 40 vendors sign up for these events. On average, we have 60 to 75 vendors for our events, but we have scaled down to 16 shows this year. Last year, I paid the city and the Balcones Heights Police Department over $40,000 in fees. This year, you're projected for a little more than half of that. One of the requests I'm putting in is to work with the city manager who I spoke with earlier in the week and advise that I come here. I would like to help the community. I think if I read the facts correct, 40% poverty rate in the community, these community events are essential to continuing the growth and bringing other people to our area. I look at places like Iguanas, who I absolutely love, and is suffering, quite honestly, as I drive by there daily and see it. I want to offer my services to the community, hosting perhaps Cinco de Mayo events. There's a lot of young entrepreneurs that want to sign up. I would love to help host those events. In working with the city and with this board, I feel that we should get past the point where Wonderland, who's been nothing but great to us, Ms. Weiss, Denise, and Victoria have always worked with me, even when I'm running late on my application, which does happen. We barely made it out alive last year as a business. This year, we're doing one event a month as we kind of gear up. We would like to propose doing single day events as well, with a reduced fee structure. I know this is just the beginning of a conversation that will take 2 to 3 months if it goes anywhere. I would like to put on the agenda for next month if we could possibly proceed in rediscussing those fees and how the event coordinator should be responsible for them, not the artists and vendors. That goes not only for myself, but I think for all promoters, and I'm not speaking for them, but I'm speaking on behalf of someone who is also a tenant now and has brought 3 additional tenants from our events who started as small businesses such as Grim Bakers, Vicious Eats, and Monsters and Mayhem. All 3 are now full-time tenants, and quite honestly, some of the most vibrant businesses in Wonderland as the small businesses right now. We're never going to bring the amount of money that your large-scale corporation will do, but I truly believe those businesses are the heart of what people come to Wonderland for. In my opinion, Wonderland of the Americas is the downtown of Balcones Heights, and to me, I really would love to be a part of helping grow that. We have a full projector screen that I rented for an event that fits the outdoor area. I'm willing to donate that for movies at night for the community. I think that gives opportunities for nonprofits, small businesses to come out and reach the community at hand that really could use the assist right now. I also understand these fees help offset the 1% sales tax that should be going to the city that's not always filed. I moved to help organize either once a month or quarterly a small business forum inside Wonderland where we teach them how to follow that 1%. I know it's only 3 drop-down bars, but these people are already frustrated paying those taxes. But if we can show them how simple it is to do that, I think that will also assist the city and also the community. I want to help. That's really what my being here today is about. This isn't just about me. This is about the fact that we're all facing a downturn economy. This also means a lot of people looking for affordable entertainment are looking for free activities. That's what these events bring the community. They don't just bring business to Wonderland. When they go eat at Babes, go drink at Dave & Buster's, pump gas at Circle K, they are bringing money to the community. And I can't stress enough, I really just want to get to a point where I felt over the last 2.5 years, it's been a struggle. And I think there's a way that we could all work together to build a stronger foundation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to make a comment about Angel. One, I didn't know he was going to be here to ask for anything, and I'm not going to comment on what he asked. But I will tell you, he's a huge,
Mr. Weiss, excuse me. Can you pick up your microphone so that
he's a huge asset to Wonderland of the Americas. Brings in lots of events and lots of people, and any consideration, I think, would be well founded.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Yes.
According to our 2025 budget, it's fees and permits are at 9%. Rose is here. Do you have an approximate number for out of that 9% that comes out of the WODA permits? Is it broken down by that? Special events, what would you say out of the 9% is that? As it says here, we have fees and permits in the amount of $785,450 in our 2024-25 budget. And that equals to 9%. Just out of curiosity so that we can maybe come up with some creative help for our commercial partners. Out of that 9%, how much of that is attributed to special events? Okay. All right, that gives me an idea what to calculate. Thank you.
Go ahead. Yes, absolutely.
Signed up to speak, and I guess you got missed for a little bit. Want to say 223 Ronald Rain, local resident and also a council member. I would like to start off by thanking each and every one of you that are here to participate and help our city grow. In essence, it's because of you that we're growing. Your efforts, your intelligence, everything that you put into it helps us grow. Also, I want to highlight those of you that participated with our Red Cross event. Your participation in that event made a huge impact to our community and our surrounding community. It is with partners like you that we'll be able to succeed. Thank you for what you do. Anything that I can do or I can offer from behalf of the city council, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you. We want to work with you. We want to succeed as a team. Thank you.
You. And just to be clear on for a future agenda item, it would be the fee structures and the role of the event coordinator as it relates to, is that the way I understood that correctly?
This is gonna have to be a separate thing because the fees and stuff go to city council in regards to that. One of the things that we'll need to discuss is, how we can assist these people and some of the stuff we'll discuss under the CDBG grant that we've applied for. So I'll visit with our city secretary and come up with a draft agenda item for that will be able for us to discuss it further.
Good, thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. I just wanted to make sure that it was addressed in the appropriate manner. Any other folks that have signed up to speak? Yes, Mr. Castorena. Sure.
The agenda later. One of the other things I wanted to propose is, I know Spirit leases their space 4 months a year. As an event coordinator, one of the things that is difficult in offsetting these costs, and possibly another solution, is you have to have free admission and free parking to the events. One of the proposals I pitched city manager the other day, and I know city and I believe the board is involved in those decisions, is the leasing of Spirit as an additional part of the events where the city would receive. I know the proposed was 1,000 per day. That's negotiable. But of course, because after meeting with PD and fire department, that would be an issue as far as occupancy. That area could be utilized for celebrity guests, photo ops, panels, not general traffic. And versus where we're still utilizing the mall and creating that foot traffic. In doing so, I would love to be, for lack of a better term, the guinea pig. As someone who's hosted 80+ events over the last 3 years, I think I'd be the ideal candidate, understanding the infrastructure of the city, and as far as working with the mall quite a bit, where I think I spend more time there than I do at home. But that is definitely something I know that's on the agenda as far as possible leasing and utilizing that space, because it is hard as an event coordinator to walk by and see that space underutilized. When Spirit, of course, I've spoken to the owner multiple times. She loves being there, doesn't want to lose that spot, but understands she does not provide it a home. I could also assist in bringing people like Big Texas, Comic-Con, and other huge promoters who would love to do smaller events. Nostalgia Con just recently moved in as a tenant, but is utilizing Shrine Auditorium because they can't collect admission fees. This allows them to do so, and also in turn brings revenue to the city without having to invest quite a bit of money into the space. The space works as is. It does not need any operational updates. It's a turnkey operation for any event coordinator who knows what they're doing. And I moved to, honestly, I would love to have an event in June, which is quite large, probably one of the largest projected ones I've seen on my calendar. And I think it's a great opportunity to utilize it, as if I believe annually, Spirit moves in at the end of June, early July. Our event could serve as a great just model to see what works, what doesn't work. And I'd work closely with permits, roads, FD, PD to make sure that we adhere to anything that's needed on our end.
Thank you again. All right, so we are going to move on to the presentations. I believe that we have Patty Joyner joining us via Zoom. Patty, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry for my voice. I've got allergies and turned into bronchitis, so I'm going to speak loudly. And I didn't know, Mr. Chair, are you running the PowerPoint there, or you want me to share my screen?
No, they can hear you just fine. So if you want to let them know to advance slides and whatnot,
perfect.
You can do that.
Okay, so my name is Patty Knudsen Joyner, and I've worked with Mr. Weiss for literally decades. And he has done a great job in repositioning this mall in a environment where malls haven't been prospering. So if you want to go to the first slide, we'll start with slide number 1. So this is just an ortho photo. It shows the proximity of Balcones Heights and the city of Wonderland Mall in relationship to the medical center, to the major employers, as well as the major freeways. I mean, this is a uniquely geographically positioned mall. And I agree with Angel that this is your main street. And so let's talk about slide 2, please. You have a lot of locational analysis and opportunities in your proximity. You're close to the freeways. You are close to major medical institutions, major retail and other events. And you're a bedroom community, because as you were created in support of the revitalization and the development of San Antonio. Next slide. Balcones Heights is a small city. So we are surrounded by the city of San Antonio. You can see by the residential pattern here south of Fred Road that you've got a grid street system, very typical of the 1940s, 1950s subdivisions. Next slide. Now, this is where the data starts to tell a story. And I want to congratulate you. We're going to go through some of your comprehensive plan strategies because you've done the hard work already. You've got the vision, you've got the plan. But the data also reveals that we've got some work to do. So within a 3-mile radius of Balcones Heights, we have average incomes of just at 59,000. Now that jumps up into to within a 5-mile radius to 65,000. So, and that is not, that's a family of 4, based on the census data and how they've calculated it. And that's a household income. So that means whoever is getting a paycheck in that household. We're light on our median household income of only 42,000. So we're a little below the state of Texas. We have a projected 5-year income growth though, within 15% within 3 miles and another 15% within 5 miles. So San Antonio's growing and that affects you. We are a young city, 34 years old. And you've got good bones. Your average home price, and I have another slide, is just under 300,000. And you have a young population and in a single population. So this data should help the EDC, City Council, and Bexar County, as well as the school district, help identify things that will be attractive to the families, such as the events and the art galleries and the shows and the family affairs at Wonderland Mall, because that will become that synergy for the city. Next slide, please. So this one shows how our income and our poverty relate to the state of Texas, and our poverty by age group as well. So that also feeds into something that the mayor was talking about, where they were going to do some grants for small business. And the other part of that partnership is to work with the junior college and or the 4-year schools there in this part of Bexar County and San Antonio, so that we can develop other employment training initiatives. And we generally would do that partnering with the COG and the MPO of Bexar County. It's bigger than just the city of Balcones Heights. And quite frankly, it's bigger than San Antonio. Hold on, let me just slide down on my slides for a second. Next slide, number 6. And this shows just how robust your opportunity is for your partnership with the medical community in San Antonio. And as you've probably seen as an owner of the mall and as Sid's partner, he has got a lot of medical veteran clinics and facilities that have been positioned in the mall, which helps make the mall more sales tax because people are coming for their doctor's appointment, may have a meal, may shop. You've got a lot of entertainment venues that have come in, and all of this becomes your driver for programs that the city wants to do. Next slide, 7, please. And this just shows you the value. You have a $500 million women children's hospital that opened up a year ago or so, and then you've got other hospital facilities that are 430 million with 800 new jobs that was going to be or opened up the last fall. Next slide. So this is taken right out of your comp plan. I want to congratulate the mayor and council on creating the update comp plan, because you need the comp plans in order to apply, whether it's HUD money, FTA, Federal Transit Authority money, FFHA, Federal Housing money. But you've done the demographic analysis, and you've done where this development could occur. And of course, the city or Sid's property, the city and Sid's property have vacant land area within the mall that could become more residential. Slide 9, please. And this is old. This was done in 2022, but HUD has a playbook on what they do for financing and how they work with cities. We are a CDBG entitlement city. Because of our poverty level, we do get CDBG money. Now, because of that poverty level, we should also be able to partner with Bexar County, with the Bexar County Housing Authority, but also with, again, the Bear County COG and MPO for other projects, including infrastructure, landscaping, et cetera. And we know today as policymakers and elected officials and appointed officials that we as cities, especially a small city, can't finance 100% of everything they've got. They've got to find partners. So we're going to talk about that. But I think one of our major partnership opportunities is to work with HUD. And this will be being updated as we speak because we have a new HUD secretary, Scott Turner. And we can jump to slide 11 because the slide 10 is just the second part of the HUD document. So this is your comp plan, and it is really well done. And I'm not just saying, oh, let me get rid of this. I'm not just saying that because I know Craig Farmer, but Craig Farmer and I are both FAICP. We've worked on projects together for about 45 years. And I know that he did this plan and he's very clear and concise. And what your roadmap is for your city plan 2040 is what your vision is, what the community said they wanted to do in the cities of Balcones Heights, and what they wanted to do with VIA and how we can partner with VIA. Next slide. This is slide 12. Again, this tells us an historical perspective of housing. And as I drive around Balcones Heights and I drive around the area, you know, you have a wonderful walkable community. It's just aged and we haven't had incentives or not everybody has been improving their property. So in 2019, when this first study, was done, your average home value was just at 157. And then what Craig did is he looked at your home ownership, and 29% of your houses are between 200 and 300,000, which is over, that's market rate. And then you've got 15% of your houses that are under 100,000. And then you've got 56% that are between 100 and 200,000. The majority of your housing stock is under 200,000. That is an opportunity by itself. And we're going to talk about your implementation strategies in this later slide. But there are strategies for, you can offer to property owners to update their property and then do what's called a mini 380, 381 public-private partnership, Mr. Chair, which you mentioned. And it might be a way that we could get Bear County to participate along with Balcones Heights and maybe even the school district, because they're not prohibited from participating in a 380 or 381. And 380 and 381 is a reference to the state law chapter. It's literally one paragraph long. 380s are for cities, 381s are for counties. But what the cities and counties are allowed to do by our legislature is that we can say, and this is just an example, we can say you have a $200,000 house, and if you paint it or landscape it or whatever the improvement might be, we, the city and county, could say to that property owner, if you put $50,000 into your home, we, the city and county, will forgive that $50,000 on the increased taxable value for 8 years, 10 years, so that the homeowner spends the money. He doesn't get, he or she doesn't get assessed on the $50,000 improvement until the abatement is off, and it can be up to 10 years. And that way, personal property or small mom and pop owners could fix up their houses and get a little relief on their taxes. That's just one example. But you can see the majority of our housing stock is in low income. Next slide. This is also something that Sid and the mayor and I talked about this morning at another meeting, is what the rental looks like. And I know that we've got a lot of small footprint rentals in Balcones Heights. And then, and the way multifamily works is there has to be adequate rental income in order to help pay for revitalization or redevelopment of a multifamily property. And so, in every case, I'm just going to say this, every development project that is presented to the city is going to be on a case by case basis. We can come up with some standard policies, which you've already adopted, but kind of flush those out to say, this is what we'd like to see as a city. But not every project's going to be cookie cutter, but to the extent practical, we want to create a template. So for, say, multifamily, if people are going to revitalize a multifamily property, what could we, the city and county, expect for that revitalization? How much will it increase rent? How much will it increase the value per unit? And then how, and then what does that owner of that multifamily redevelopment property need to be financeable? And we always suggest that when we sit down with developers, we always have the developers bring their lenders to the EDC meetings or to the city council meetings. And these are private meetings, so these are not open house meetings, but it's because we need to know if the developer is telling the banker the same thing they're telling us, basically. So it's a good way to have a working partnership. And one of the things I was telling the mayor and Sid this morning is that because of our geographic location, and we are a CDBG target neighborhood, there are other lending incentives through Community Reinvestment Act, CRAs, where banks get credit for lending on projects, whether they're houses, multifamily, or businesses, or malls. And they get credit from the national federal banking system. It has a program. It was created to avoid redlining. We had, and you may remember back in the 70s and 80s, we had loans that could not be issued in certain neighborhoods for certain things that were constitutionally illegal. And so as a result of fighting those kind of discriminations, the federal lending side created CRAs. And the CRA was very successful for Houston in the mid 80s when oil was $5 a gallon. And, we were on our knees here in Houston. But when having lenders look at small footprint property owners, they can get credit for helping a small mom and pop revitalize, bring property up to code, and do the streetscapes, do the landscaping, do the things that make the property pretty and shiny for the city and the citizens of Balcones Heights. And you can see that on our population change, we lost population from 2010 to 2020. 40% of our population is below the poverty limit, which is why you want to connect education programs and partnerships with schools and junior colleges and tech schools so that we can figure out how to help the education level of our residents and find out what the businesses need so that they can improve their income and then thus improve what they buy, what they rent, etc. And is there any questions as I'm going through this? I don't mean to just read to you, but if you do, just stop me. Next slide, 15. So you have the vision, and when you have the vision, it's only as good as an implementation strategy. And I don't want to set an illusion that you do a plan and all of a sudden 5 years from now, Balcones Heights is revitalized. It is going to take a while. It's going to take a long time because it has declined to a part where it's going to need multiple partners to help achieve your vision. But it started with this vision, and you outlined that it's you're surrounded by San Antonio. You want to improve the community. You want to improve the infrastructure. You want to improve the appearance. And just to give you some statistics, the American Society of Landscape Architects say that when you landscape a mall, a retail center, an office building, it doesn't seem to matter, but specifically to retail, shoppers spend 30% more in a well-landscaped facility that is attractive and safe, lighted, etc. And so one of the incentives in the strategies can be, we will make landscaping and fountains and public art reimbursable, but the developer or the multifamily developer has to advance all the money. The city is not the bank. The developer is the bank. And when those improvements are advanced by the developer, and they result in these increased sales tax revenue, real property revenue, market rate revenues, real property revenues in the market side, then they can be paid back out of that improved sales, that improved real property value. And so now we're going to spend more time on slide 16, and it's very small, so I'm going to go slow because this is the secret sauce for you. And this is really a very well done list of strategies. And I don't want you to think under Chapter 2, Community Profile Strategies, it says provide incentives to private sector developers to diversify housing and median incomes, take steps to make Valcones Heights attractive for young professionals and families. Those are the high level points. There will be sub improvements, and your EDC should be on a big board printed in your conference room, because it helps identify every time you see a project. And I'm going to extend this strategy to even how you do your plat approvals. You need to use your strategies to gauge whether or not a plat or a rezoning that comes into the city of Balcones Heights is in keeping with your comprehensive plan. That's required by state law, but specifically your implementation strategies. Because you can use under Texas law, you can use your comp plan and your implementation strategies list to, let's say somebody's coming in, and I'm going to get complicated here, but somebody's coming in with a variance. You just don't grant a variance. The state law says you have to have a hardship. The state law says you have to demonstrate that it wasn't a self-imposed hardship. And that example is, let's say somebody owns 10 acres and they subdivide as they go and plat, and they get down to the last 2 acres and they need a variance because they don't have the minimum property size for a retail center. Well, the fact that he or she sold their property from 10 to 2, and now they need a variance, should be denied because it was a self-imposed hardship. And then, and the third one is, so self-imposed, what is the hardship? Does it complete or does it support the comprehensive plan? And is it complementary to the zoning maps and everything else? So those are other ways that you can use your implementation strategies. And then if you could zoom in on a little bit on that screen, let me just see what it looks like on yours, because I'm reading it on my laptop. Yeah, you may want to zoom in. No, go back to strategies, please. If you can zoom in and make it just a little bit bigger, I want to talk about a couple more points. So one of the things that San Antonio is benefiting from is transportation infrastructure improvements. Fair County is growing. They're getting a lot of money into your MPO, your Metropolitan Planning Organization. And we should be in the grants business. We should be seeking leverage money for grants to improve the road, like Fred Road, like the mayor was talking. He'd like to make Fred landscaped. We should be partnering with VIA to do that, and the city of San Antonio and Bexar County. We should be going after joint grants for all of these different improvements that we need. If we need to do drainage in the area, that should also be part of that initiative. And the way your COG works is they have a 5-year plan, and they update that 5-year plan annually. So if we did ask for a grant for Fred Road or for infrastructure or for water, sewer, paving, drainage, sidewalks, etc., we won't get that money for 6 years, because the first 5 years is a rolling 5 years. So they go through their 2026 budget year. Right now, they've just started that. And then they'll start in June of 2027. And then every year they do a call for projects. Again, our call for projects might not get funded till 2027. But it also gives us time to work with the partners to figure out where we can find the match, et cetera. Some of the grants that are being funded right now in this fiscal year in Houston, our MPO and COG are waiving the match. So they're getting 100% funded. So that's some of the opportunities that we need to explore as a city and EDC. Going down to housing strategies, I'm not going to read it to you, but go down to Chapter 5 in housing strategies. This is where we could partner with the state of Texas, Texas Housing and Community Development, as well as the governor's office on what we could do to revitalize. We are an old city geographically and just as a city, we're old, and we haven't had a lot of improvements in our streets and stuff. And one of the things that we may have to do is take a bite of the elephant a little at a time and look and see if we can get a grant from the MPO to help us evaluate, build on what Craig already did on housing strategies, and maybe do a program to say, who are our potential housing developers from San Antonio for Balcones Heights, and get some input from them on what they would take to look at the small footprint multifamily, look at building brand new multifamily at the mall site, and revitalize some of these older houses. One of the recommendations Craig has is to create a townhouse zoning district. You've got a typical 5,000 square foot lot. Those 5,000 square foot lots today in 2025 are expensive. So then there might have to be a trade-off. Will the city and EDC support, instead of having 5 units to the acre, would you support 8 units to the acre? If it was a small section of areas that could be redeveloped, and then those new areas that are redeveloped, 2 and 3 and 4 acre tracts, would have a higher property value and would offer a lifestyle such as townhouses. And townhouses can be attached or detached, but it might be attractive to young professionals who work at the medical center, but they can't afford to live around the medical center. That happens virtually in every medical center that we've got in Texas. The land is so expensive around those brand new facilities that housing is very expensive. But if we were to rezone and look at creating a townhome district zone, which is your strategy 5.4, that would help change housing solutions for your young buyers or young renters. But also, and it's not, he didn't list it here, but Craig and I have talked about this. I think talking to senior housing and veteran retirement housing is a positive strategy. It's not specifically listed. You can't possibly list everything, but because we're a military town, we have a lot of retired military. We've got the vet clinics in Balcones Heights. I think personally, we should really seriously talk to the VA and other housing specialists that build veteran and senior housing. And that could be a centerpiece for you. And guess what? If we do it right, we don't have to have parking for it, Sid. We can have it walkable to the mall, and people can live, work, go to the hospital, go to the clinic, and shop and entertain all at Balcones Heights. But I think that veteran housing and senior needs to be one of our strategic evaluations, and then see if there's a market for that. Chapter 7 is how we kind of what we've been talking about right now. This is where we flush out the more of the revitalization strategies that could work. And again, I would get this input from developers. I would hold a session, and I think the EDC is the perfect board to conduct the listening session. And we entertain with the Bexar County Housing Home Builders, National Home Builders for Texas. And we see, what would you do? I mean, what would you need to develop in here? And what that will do, it'll turn on a frenzy. And of course, your EDC office will light up and people will be clamoring for meetings. So we have to prepare for that. So we have to have some templates that we want to see them respond to. But I think that would help us see what the private sector is seeing. And I always include lenders in those listening sessions, because the lender may say, I know we got a client that's a senior housing builder, then let me talk to them. So, but the idea is to get input on the strategies with the development and the banking community, and even financing strategies with lawyers that work in all of those different Texas programs. We talk about parks on chapter 8. And that is, there's a lot of money in Texas for doing parks, drainage, and infrastructure. On chapter 6, again, this is your economic potential. We have, we might want to, and Sid, you can weigh in on this, is what you see going forward for the mall for its needs for tenant mix changes or whatever. Or like Angel said, if we can have more events than one a month, that's going to help solidify for Balcones Heights that it's the family festival place. If, you know, whether it's Saturdays or Sundays, or if there's a Taco Tuesday event that they want to, you know, because you don't want it just to be busy on Saturday and Sunday. And then over in the far right, and this is something that Craig has talked a lot about, we probably need to step up our code enforcement. If people don't think that anybody's watching, they're not fixing up their property, they may have code violations, they have safety violations. And some of these landlords kind of skate by because nobody's watching to see if their code violations are corrected, and or even if they have code violations. So, and again, we're a family-friendly community, so it's not like we're just going to send these people out, these code inspectors, and going to descend on them. I think that has to have a public engagement announcement that says, help make Balcones Heights the best it can be, and talk about and have a listening session on what it is that we want to do to make sure that our and it's primarily multifamily, whether they're small footprint or large, are up to snuff. And then make sure that we are implementing those annual inspections. And there are ways to do these inspections without the city of Balcones Heights paying overtime or hiring more inspectors. For a program like this, we can find a partner that works with small cities that does building inspection training. And then we do a training session with them and the owners of the property. So the owners of the property know they have to paint it, or they have to have sidewalks in good walkable condition, or whatever the violation is. But this is something that Craig feels very strongly that we should be making sure that all the property owners and owners of property know that this is expected to be a well-maintained owner's property, whether it's single family or multifamily or even retail. Next slide, number 17. And these pictures are pictures from Houston, but it shows when you introduce street trees, landscaping, sidewalks. This is a ramp to notify people that may not be sighted that they're coming to an intersection, the one in the middle. Next slide, number 18. This shows again different elements of planting, and FTA, Federal Transit, and VIA have funding for stuff like this. They could be a real partner for us on Fred Road, as well as the city of San Antonio, as well as Bexar County. Next slide, 19. Again, some more examples of tree planting. And other examples, if you've spent any time coming back and forth between San Antonio and Houston, we have a city here called Bel Air. And in the early 80s, you could buy a house in the city of Bel Air for $95,000. I was a city employee making 20. I just would dream that I could ever buy a $95,000 house. But today, those houses are $1 million houses. And the bones of Bel Air is just like the bones of Balcones Heights. And I'm not saying we should have a strategy to move out our affordable families. I'm just saying when you start to do it, when you start to do your revitalization strategy and you implement it over time, you start to see the fruit of that labor. And it may be that some areas of Balcones, and I can't remember the name of the street, said that we were driving on, that they were non-deed restricted and people had converted houses to beauty shops and nail shops and stuff. I mean, that might be something to look at for a commercial, like a neighborhood commercial. And it would need landscaping. It would need some other things, but you've got the bones to do that. Slide 20, please. Excuse me. back to Balcones Heights and Fred Road and 410. If we did senior housing, I could see under a shared parking example, and of course the retailers will dictate what their minimum parking ratio is. But we've got land within Balcones Heights, and then we've got that Via property that might be a partner to do housing with the and that overflow that they were talking about this morning. But so I'm open for questions.
Thank you for that, Ms. Joyner. Any questions from the board? You know, Ms. Joyner, it strikes me as like when you look at something, a strategic plan and all of that, you look at all the needs, you know, whether it be infrastructure, housing, density, all that, it can become a little overwhelming very quickly, right? And so my approach has always been, what are our biggest assets in the thing, and build from a position of strength, right? So start with the biggest assets and then go from there. In your opinion, what would those look like? What are those, and what does that look like?
Well, and I'm not saying this because I work for Sid, but one of your biggest assets is the Mall of America, and it has vacant land on it. It's controlled by the city and Sid. You can actually control your destiny. And in my doing this for 50 years, one little catalytic project can change the perception of Balcones Heights. And I think the senior housing and veteran housing opportunity is an opportunity. And if that is on Mall of the Americas property, or if there is a willing small footprint developer that says, if somebody will help me, I'll put up my 4 acres to do senior housing or veteran housing. I would go with what you can do to have and it might take 5 years to, from the time you plat property to designing multifamily, to building it, to getting the taxes on the ground. That's probably a 5-year proposition. But where you control your real estate is where I would start. It's heavier lifting to try to get somebody else who you don't own their property to agree to be a developer, and they're 80 years old and they don't know if they want to do that, or they don't trust anybody. So I would go with the assets that you, the city of San Antonio, or you, the city of Balcones Heights owns, and or the city of Balcones Heights and Sid own, because you can control the land. That's where we should start.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Ms. Joyner, for joining us for that very informative presentation.
And do you guys have copies of it for your file? Because I know it's hard to see on the screen.
It's in our packet, so thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. All right. In your packet, board members, there are the minutes from the meeting back on March 13th, 2025. Meeting and the current financial report were provided. Do either of these items need to be taken out of the packet for further discussion? Is this we make the B61? Yeah, it was brought to my attention that actually in the minutes, there was a discussion about also the city controls the lease of B90, it says in the minutes, but that in fact is B61. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct. Mr. Weiss mentioned B90, but it's B61.
It is in fact B61. So without any objection, I would ask that we modify the minutes to accurately reflect the space as B61. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes and finance report. Is there a motion? There's a motion by Ms. Kwan. Do I have a second? Second. Very good. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Very good. So the minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if we may, on the presentations, I know that, that you informed me that Professor
That's.
Ian was not
Yeah.
able to be here, so that's understandable, but then we've got the state report by Floyd.
Very good. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I missed that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I was just say that the Professor Ian Kane, he's the director of the Center for Urban Planning and Research at UTSA at the downtown campus, and he's written actually extensively. There's actually a report in your data about the relationship basically along Fredericksburg Road with that links all the way from downtown all the way to the medical center in USAA, and how WODA is a big part of that. And he had done some stuff on, and he was, but unfortunately, we'll probably reschedule him for another time when he can come back.
We would like that. It's very interesting reading on that.
Okay, and so if we could then go back to the presentation. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun there. If we could go back to the presentation by Mr. Messick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Real briefly here with this one. At the last meeting, we had asked what would it look like if we could put our EDC information onto the Texas Comptroller's website. And so that's what we did. And this is just a slide of the Texas Comptroller's website. You go to that, you click on the data report, and then you can select your city or any cities. You can see a bunch of them. So this is called up for what the city of Balcones Heights looks like. Now at the meeting last time, we had said, well, let's think about this. Let's see what it will look like. And so I brought that, to the comptroller. They said, well, you've got till 1 April to make up your mind. Either you do it or you don't, because after 1 April, you're going to have to wait till next year. And so I made the command decision to go ahead and add it, because it's easier to take it off than it is to add it after 1 April, obviously. But if you want to keep it up there, great, here it is. If you say we don't like it, take it down, we can do that as well. But for us, it's very basic. This is the overview of our information. It's going to say, well, it says a whole bunch of stuff. And so you can click on it and move around. There's really not much on the revenue side, of course. Just want me to select, yeah, I got to select it. It kicked me off. Technology. Yeah, I clicked on another one there. Let me get that off.
What Floyd did, Mr. Chairman, if I may, he did move forward to provide the information and have it documented. We felt that it was the right thing to do. The board was interested in it. We moved forward on it. And as we continue to grow our EDC and our footprint, then we've already got the reports on file up to that point. So once we start moving forward, at least that's on board, and we're complying with whatever we need to.
Yeah, and just to conclude, this is the information that you'll see, and you can drill down into it with graphs and whatnot, but it'll show you revenues. Of course, we have no sales tax attached to it, so that's always going to be zero. And then our expenditures that we have every year, it's going to be around 400,000. Our fund balance started out at 5.4 million, which was our initial investment into the project, and it's going down every year in accordance with our expenditures. But it's a nice little website to play around with and look at. You can see all the cities are there for you. There's no login needed. It's public access information. Just wanted to share that with you guys, and if there's any questions.
Well, thank you very much for doing that, Mr. Messick. I think it is, one of the things is, identifying aspirant communities that we can look at and see where we measure up, and what communities of similar size, similar composition, it becomes very valuable to be able to do that comparison face to face. So thank you very much for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn, as well, for moving forward with that. Any discussion or any questions for Mr. Messick? Very good. All right. So we approve the minutes on the previous, we did. Okay. So then we're Number two.
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, we approved the minutes and the financial report.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So update, discussion, and possible action. Wonderland of the Americas, Sid Weiss, Managing Partner, Denise Bush, General Manager.
Mr. Chairman. For those of you that don't know, Patty Joyner, who you heard, got a little long-winded, but, and I love her dearly. For 7 years, she was Director of Planning and Development for the City of Houston. And she's a certified planner and has been doing what she does, as she said, for 30 or 40 years. So super qualified person and covered some things that I think are important, but she missed a couple of things that I will bring to the board at some future date. Regarding the agenda items, there's one item that I'd like to discuss in executive session because it's a little sensitive and I don't want it to be on the public record. But other than that, the minutia of operating the property, the water tower has been found to have some issues, and we're in the process of repairing that. The parking garage, which is partially shut down, we got a report today from the civil engineer. We expect a report from the structural engineer, but the good news is they don't anticipate a major structural problem. There's some concrete spalling. There's some issues we have to deal with, but it's not going to be a telephone number with an area code, in my opinion. Regarding the new escalator, we had asked Schindler to provide financing sources so that the money that's needed could be funded by a lender of their participation. They've been unable to find such a lender. So I've got a meeting at the bank tomorrow with the bank president. Hopefully he'll reconsider our request and see if we can't get funding for that escalator. In the meantime, the two escalators in the food court are finally working. We've engaged an outside company to clean the escalators and paint the stripes on the steps that have been requested, and it should be standard. That's getting done. There's an issue with TK Elevator where we placed an $80,000 deposit with them to purchase an elevator and then decided we couldn't find the $1 million to get the cost of the elevator covered, escalators. So we asked for our money back and they refused to give us our money back for the last 6 months. We filed a lawsuit and then the attorneys settled the issue at the repayment of the deposit plus attorney's fees. And TK has not responded to the settlement. So we have reinstituted the lawsuit and the attorney's going to the court and ask for specific performance or whatever legal term they use to enforce the agreement that was documented. We'll get that money eventually. The leasing of A18, we've had some interest by Bexar County. I personally went out and met with Dan Curry, who's head of facilities for the Bexar County. They have sent 2 different groups to Wonderland of the Americas to look at the space. Whether they're interested in some or all or any, we're not sure. They commented that Bexar County moves very slowly. So we're hopefully that they're going to be a willing participant and that we can get some activity there. Other than that, the only thing I would like to comment on was in closed session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiss.
Any questions?
Questions, Mr. Weiss?
Thank you.
All right, so discussion and updates, Chapter 501 of the Local Government Code governing EDCs, no alternates permitted. Clay Binford.
Yes, I was asked to take a look at the opportunity for alternates to be designated by individual board members in order to serve as a proxy to comprise a quorum. I do not see anything in the statutory authority that allows that to occur. The board of the director members are appointed by council, and they are imparted within them the requirement for compliance with the Open Meetings Act. And so identifying new members at the behest or direction of the board member is not permitted by law. I cannot advise that a proxy would be satisfactory to serve for quorum purposes. There were two inquiries. One had to do with attendance by a virtual meeting, and the other one had to do with appointment of proxy. And I think we've now addressed both those questions.
I think so too. Thank you, Mr. Benford.
Certainly.
Any questions, though, of the board on any of that? Item 4, discussion of city's economic development projects, current development projects. Andy Jocelyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your package, you find the report that we circulate every month, Economic Development Board, City of Balcones Heights. This one is dated April 10th. And on the back page, anything in blue denotes new additions to the report. So if we move on to anything in blue, cardiac outpatient clinic, the work is complete. Building final approved. Application for CFO has been submitted. Next one, Scooters Coffee Shop, 4443 Fredericksburg Road. Architect secured. Plans are expected to be submitted in April. New certificates of occupancy, Iglesia, and I can't pronounce that name, 96 Crossroads Boulevard is done. We move on to vacant lots and buildings. The only addition is going to be 4519 Fredericksburg Road, former Wendy's, 2,956 square feet of building with drive-through, 33,106 square feet of land. We move down to capital improvements. On Crestview Phase 2, CPS has begun work to replace main gas lines, estimated completion in 2 weeks. R.L. Jones has begun prep and site work. Hillcrest Road project currently in design phase, 60% complete, final design due March 2025, project completion anticipated FY 2027. Interlocal agreement between the city and SAWS currently in review to facilitate city's improvement of Hillcrest. 60% DDRT meeting, 60% design submitted March 13, 2025. Miscellaneous projects on the EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant, second quarterly report of Q1 of 2025 submitted, reviewed, and approved. Under that one, residential rental property inspection program inspections are currently being conducted by code and fire departments and are about 15% complete for the 2025 year. If there's any questions, I do have my staff here today to assist in answering any of the questions, since they do the majority of the work or almost all the work. One of the two things that I would like for the board to know is on the TERS progress update and the CDBG grant update, two things that I've been working on heavily. One with your chairman, and then two with my staff. I'd like to say that the initial TERS meeting, which was a project approved by my city council, we had our first meeting, myself, Clay Benford, which is our attorney, and I recruited a couple of staff members who showed interest in participating in the progress, the positive progress of Balcones Heights. Thomas Marroquin is our fire chief. And then Nick, how do you pronounce your last name? I found this gentleman in our development department. Rose Anderson is our manager there, does a great job. But she's got a gentleman in her office that his title is permit clerk, correct? And I asked him to assist me with a couple of things, and he was real quick to return my request in a timely manner, very professional. So I asked him what his education was, and he is got a bachelor's of science in global arts, planning, design, and construction, with a minor in urban and regional planning and business administration, sitting in that office. So he is going to be working a lot with me, along with Rose and our fire chief with the TERS project. Clay, could you just brief us a little bit of what we discussed our first meeting?
Sure. We kind of gave a high-profile overview of what a tax increment reinvestment zone is. We gave the benefits and the tools that it can provide to the city and its toolkit to facilitate some redevelopment, including both economic or financial and non-financial tools. We talked about how you go about approaching other partners to participate, other taxing entities that are going to benefit from the improved development as well. And then we talked about the things that have to occur in order to get this plan off the ground and how you pair that with, as an incentive package to go and recruit development partners to execute and realize your vision. We talked about the different steps and what needed to be done by the city to include or to proceed, and that is identify the geographic boundary, reach out to your potential partners, come up with a project and finance plan, and then memorialize this in the documentation and start the public process that will allow for the creation of the zone. We did discuss about how the creation of a project plan is not static, it's dynamic. You can modify it and add to and take away over time. And then we had a Q&A and what was important to the people in the room, questions as to the legal structure and the mechanics of it, and how this could work and support the plans that are being devised right now. We did talk about there needing to be an additional party with expertise in development of a project and finance plan. And I made a recommendation to Mr. Jocelyn, confirmed that he would be willing to take on this project. And Mr. Jocelyn reached out to him yesterday and he responded with some proposed times with his staff to start discussing, really kind of providing to the city a roadmap in the form of a questionnaire that they need in order to put together a proposed plan that then gets populated with details. That's a summary of about an hour and a half conversation, but happy to talk about it more, Mr. Jocelyn, if you'd like.
We finished that meeting and I got the consultant's information that Tuesday, the 8th at 10:43 a.m. I emailed him with my request. Wednesday, the 9th, I received a response from 8:06 that he was ready to start work. So we're going to set some times where we can sit as a group again, and I'm going to utilize the city staff that I have to assist me because we were going to have to gather a bunch of information as far as the geographical area of where the TERS is proposed. We need to know what kind of infrastructure impacts that we're going to need funding for. The fire chief's going to assist me with that. And Floyd Messick, of course, is our finance director, so he'll be involved heavily as we move forward. Another good thing that was accomplished with the approval of the city council, we called a special meeting and they showed up because we had a deadline for a grant, CDBG grant, dealing with economic development. Thank you, Dr. Enriquez, for taking the lead on that. He spent a lot of time on that, and we were able to, after the approval of the council, get that submitted. Would you like to discuss a little bit about that, Dr. Enriquez, for the benefit of the board?
Yes. So given our last discussion around funding and or lack thereof for economic development activities, it was pretty clear that if that was going to happen, it would have to come from sort of grant at least in the short term, right? It would have to come from grant activity or from outside sources. And one of the things that we became aware of is that the county still had there was a really a quick deadline, a quick turnaround on an opportunity to apply for the economic community development through either CDBG, and this funding for this type of a program, it has to be CDBG. So what it is the Balcones Heights Job Creation Loan Fund, and most of it is an outline of the project description. But it just in short, it's an opportunity for businesses in the Balcones Heights footprint in our city to have access to microloans, let's call them, between $5,000 and $50,000 at a very low interest rate for the purposes of hiring folks of low to moderate income, which at $28,000 being the median income, basically, you know, many of the folks who live in the apartments or around in the area would qualify. And through sort of strategic partnerships with folks that principally the Small Business Development Center at UTSA and others, folks that I've worked with in the past, they would assist us in sort of deploying, if we are successful ultimately, they would assist us in deploying this program. And again, it's only aimed at small businesses in the Balcones Heights city, the city of Balcones Heights.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that Ms. Joyner brought up, always assist us in knowing if we're headed in the right direction. I think we're headed in the right direction. We do have a lot of work to do. That's why I've recruited some staff members that would normally not be as involved to help me out so that we can move forward. One of the things that Nick brought up was, why don't we have a joint workshop between the council, the EDC, and the PNC to discuss the 2040 plan and where we are on that. We want to reaffirm that the plans is still something that the administration, the council, the boards want us to undertake so that we can move forward. If there's any modifications that we need to make, we can do those now. But as the mayor has stated and the city council has stated, we need to move now. We've kind of spun our wheels for a little bit. So that's what we're working hard on the EDC and the city side of it. So we'll take any feedback from you as a board on what you'd like to see as we move forward. But we'll be calling some special meetings, joint meetings between everybody so we can get that in place. So the staff, anything for the group, the good of the committee, the board that you'd like to relay? Just know we've got some qualified people. We just gotta find them and combine them, and then we'll make sure that we get the stuff that we need to so that we can move forward. The TERS project is gonna be a quick turnaround and several months, but we've got to get those steps in place so that we may be able to market the WODA property and try to see what kind of movement we get in regards to that for the future.
Any other questions from the board of Mr. Jocelyn before we move on? Yes. Would you like to be recognized? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, as a citizen, Ms. Joyner touched on two items that I'd like to, I guess, ask a question / direct to the EDC. So one, she mentioned that there's a lot of funding out there for parks and recreation, and our community really needs, I guess you can say, to revamp our parks. And so I just want to ask the EDC, whoever's, I guess you can say, role or job that is, to look for those grants and apply for them. The other thing that she mentioned was about code compliance. In the city of Balcones Heights, our code compliance officer is out on medical leave. But I think it would be very important, and I'm going to formally ask the mayor to maybe put it on the agenda for city council to hire somebody, maybe in the form of on a contract basis or something. But we need to put something in force to have these multifamily units inspected and put in code and help bring the community up. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for the benefit of the community here and everyone, we discussed those things. This is part of the two-prong effort we're taking in trying to do this revitalization and rehabilitation of our community. We're approaching the commercial aspect of it and in hand with the inner city development of our residential and apartment housing footprint, in which we're trying to bring up to par. One of the things that what I recommended today was that, and I had already discussed this before in the beautification program that I started at the beginning of my administration, and we're going to take a more aggressive approach, and I'm going to recommend to the staff. I don't think this is a council decision that needs to be made strictly on staff's discretion. But what I want to do is create a task force of code compliance. If we have to contract out, we contract out. But the idea is to take a very aggressive approach on these enforcements of code compliance. And we're going to call all components in of the apartment complex And correct, Mr. Jocelyn, that I mentioned that we're going to call each component of each apartment complex together in the meeting. So there'll be no surprises. They'll understand exactly what the direction we're going to go. And again, it'll be a zero tolerance type of approach. You have now been informed, this is what the city is looking at. We're going to be moving very quickly into rehabilitating these apartment complexes because it's very important in making sure that we goes along with our rebranding effort as well to project to these apartment owners, either get them in shape or you'll be sanctioned with a fine. And once we do that enough, they're either going to do one or two things. They'll sell their interest out, move in, somebody will take the property over and then redevelop it. But again, our powers are in that code compliance. So we are going to be moving very swiftly to address that. And we're well aware of that one person that's out or no longer with us, as a matter of fact, right, Mr.
Mayor,
Johnson?
I want to make sure that we're staying on agendized items.
Sure.
And I know that it was brought
Yeah, it
up
was
by
just in
citizen comment.
response to him.
Right, understood, but just want to make sure that we're sticking to the
Okay.
agenda.
So with that said, enough, but we're moving forward in that direction.
Everything was taken into notes.
Yes, it was. And so staff is going to be on top of it.
Thank you. We now will move to executive session discussion pursuant to section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property of the Texas Government Code regarding Wonderland of the Americas. A governmental body may conduct a closed meeting to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. It is 4:18. We move into executive session. It is now, my phone went dead, 4:28. And we're going to come back, reconvene in open session. There's no action items from our discussions in executive session. Executive Director updates.
No updates, sir. That's, I've been processing that through the reports. Thank you.
Very good. Future agenda items, suggestions. One of the things, Mr. Jocelyn, that was mentioned in your presentation is this idea of creating these stakeholder meetings around your the previous plan. Aside from just did you have anything in mind, like concrete, like meeting monthly, quarterly? Do you have any thoughts on
We just
that?
need to have an initial meeting so that we can do some brainstorming, a workshop, not necessarily a meeting. So what we'll do is we'll look at our calendar, look at the calendar of events. We know Fiesta's here to see how quick we can get those meetings together. We'll communicate by email with the chairperson and the mayor to see, and then the planning and zoning committee chair.
Maybe by the next meeting, you know, have something concrete, you know, we can get a sense of like what that's going to look like.
Yes,
And
sir.
maybe some of the folks here would want to participate as well,
Oh, perfect.
or how
Yes.
we would do that. Mhm. Very good. Any other future agenda items, suggestions?
Are we going to need to discuss the topic of the events that Angel brought? Along with-
Probably. Mr. Jocelyn, my sense is this is sort of a hybrid type problem, right? In the sense that there's a limited amount of the EDC can do around the collection of fees and allocating resources around the collection of those
Yeah,
fees and all
it's
that.
mainly the water management and the city council on any of the fees. I think he was here to try to see about any assistance from the EDC funding wise to be able to offset his.
Got it.
costs.
I think my concern is I've been to some of the events and they do draw a lot of people. As Sid said, they're important. The community that they have upstairs with the unique shops and all those things, they tie directly into the events. And so I think it's an important part of I've been saying that we need a way to market Wonderland of the Americas, so I think the topics he's bringing up of, how can we enhance those events, and then also tie in that facility, bring that in closer to where it's a full marketing effort. I think there's an opportunity there. And so while I understand the fees are part of what he wants to discuss, I think maybe we need to have a broader discussion on how can we leverage those events, some of the vendors in there, into a broader marketing or branding effort to draw people into the mall consistently. I mean, we know the purpose of this committee is to help grow the mall, and I think that's one of the most consistent efforts that has drawn people in there. So I think it's worth discussion here to talk about what is our plan to, and I mean, even going back to the presentation earlier, the mall is the centerpiece of it. It's Main Street. So how do we draw people to Main Street? And so I think if we ignore, tangible things that can be done. I mean, the Jazz Fest is great, but that happens in July once a year. I thought the idea of a movie night or something like that can bring families in. Obviously, people are going to buy food. Just draw people back into the area, centered around those events. It's a very unique facility. I've had some ideas on. I think we need to lean into the datedness of the mall in doing like a 90s theme, 80s, 90s theme, which is trending right now. But that's going to require consistent effort. So I don't know if there needs to be separate discussions, or somebody could bring a presentation on that, but I'd be open to, helping out with that conversation as far as like the marketing and branding of like, how do we draw people back to the city through that?
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly as well, and especially this idea of branding around, again, I agree with Ms. Joyner that the mall is a huge asset for the community. It's, as you said, it's downtown, or as Angel said, it's basically the downtown, and I don't know that we're necessarily taking advantage of it. We're not really, and I think that's kind of is that we need to think very strategically about how that gets done. This is one of the struggles that, is the lack of funding, independent funding for the EDC really limits. And I know that there's a community liaison, I think, in Balcones Heights that sort of, there once was, right? So, because they kind of are the operations person for maybe the Jazz Fest and some of these other things, but so that position's been eliminated.
Right, and the economic development director position's been eliminated, which loosened up about $100,000 in funds that we could probably utilize. I'm also exploring, and excuse me, Mr. Chairman, may I?
No,
address-
yeah, that's the point, John.
And so-
Mayor, is that, if you take something and then don't put something back
Right.
in its place, you're kind of,
Right. And so there is an economic development incentive fund that has been pretty much used for the general operating budget. It's been infused into transferring funds to that. And that fund is specifically for what we do, which is incentivize businesses and providing funds for them. It has to the tune of about one time $362,000. And, it's basically been rated, in my opinion, to go into the general operating fund, and it needs to be reallocated to the purpose that we was established for, which is us, the EDC. And so Mr. Johnson and I are very well aware of it. We're working on a creative solution as to how to address it. And it is on page 50. So right here. In 24, the budget had $462,664. In the 24 estimated, again, 462,664. In 25, 346,930. But because it's been, money has been transferred over, we're left with a 15,734 change, which is in the red. So currently our budget that we have in there is 141,930, but still, it's significant amount of money that should be here. Remember, we didn't have any resource for funds. This may be our answer. And then what I was thinking is maybe as a suggestion is you can offset some of these costs that some of these vendors are having trouble with the economy sometimes, whatever, and provide a little bit of funds for them to offset where the city still gets their money out of it, but we're getting it out of the economic incentive fund to offset a little bit of those costs. That's why I was asking what was the percentage? And the percentage that I figured at 10% of the 970,000 is basically we're taking in $7,854 is what we're taking in right now on fees, basically. When she said 10% roughly of the fees of the 785,450. So it's doable. It's very doable for us to offset if we want to do that as a group to help our businesses. Yes.
Yes.
Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. With all due respect to Jeremy's comments, that they're right on target as far as I'm concerned. We've got a director of marketing that works full-time making things happen on the weekends, and every weekend there's something happening at Wonderland of the Americas. That's been a slogan of ours. A few years ago, I used to go to Vail, Colorado a lot, and they have a July 4th celebration that is knock your socks off. And they bring in the Boston Philharmonic or the New York Symphony and people like that. And they play all this John Philip Sousa music, and everybody's got an American flag and a bottle of water. And we did that one time at Wonderland in America, and it was a huge success. The problem with doing it again is that it's about a $25,000 or $30,000 item. And I had suggested early in the year to the director of marketing, we want a spring event, we want a Salute to America event, we want a Jazz Fest event, and we want a fall event. And she reminded me of the cost of doing this, and it's roughly just for the entertainment somewhere in the $20,000 to $25,000 per each, but it's a $30,000 or $40,000 item. And the hot tax at one time was used for the Jazz Festival. And I don't know if that's the same funds you're talking about, Mayor, but
This is a totally separate fund.
so if the city wanted to participate and help stimulate these other activities, that would be a wonderful effort in your regard. Thank you.
And the part, Mr. Weiss, that we have to do as the governing body is that the city is stretched out so far right now that is the reason why our finance has been transferring those funds over into our general operating budget, which should have never occurred. But we need to keep that money in that designated fund and utilize it for its purposes. And then we have to, as a city, find another resourceful avenue, an outlet for making up the difference, because it's not meant to be in the general operating budget. It's meant to be used to incentivize small businesses. Yes, sir.
Mr. Sid, what is the typical fee for vendors during these events, just to get a context? Just to get some context, what's the vendor fee look like for a vendor?
I'll let the general manager speak to that because I don't know specifics about.
Angel was saying that usually the events he pays in is anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. My understanding, if the vendor, each vendor pays $50. That's depending on who's the contributor, who a lot of variables in it.
For whatever it's worth, my business back in the day, I've been with it for 20 plus years, when people didn't know how to pronounce it. And events is what we did to drive, and until we got to a point where we couldn't do them because we don't have the room. So for whatever it's worth.
Just real quick, so we're talking about having this as an item on the next board meeting. Okay. Okay, great. And last year or so, I worked with the previous executive director on looking at some things of even converting the fountain area, just be smaller and something that's more useful. So I'll bring that. I have pretty drawings. I'll bring that next time.
Just real quick, I know we talked a little bit about transferring funds and going back and forth and doing the economic incentive funds. I believe one of the reasons the transfer is happening is because the distributions are not coming in. So we're still having to move monies around to get us to where we need to be. So it is benefiting the economic development and the incentive fund. Is just the way it's operated, Randall, the way it's structured, it has to follow a certain procedure to keep everything going. And just a little bit that I know of the fees, if the event coordinator pays for all the fees, it's $1,500, I think. If they choose not to do it, then each vendor pays a fee, and it's between $25 and $50. It depends how they decide to pay it.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Very good. All right, so if board members, if you want to, raise topics or presenters, business to be added to the future agenda, just let us know. Otherwise, I believe, it is, do I have, let's see here. The action needed, no.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. It is now, here, what time is it? What time is it? 4:43, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.